Welcome to the Strong as Fuck podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Santucci, and join us for some strong conversations.
Welcome to the Strong as Fuck podcast. That's the name we're going to work with for now because I didn't have one. Super excited about my guest today. Like I said last week, I want to bring on some friends who are doing some good stuff, especially entrepreneurs and people who are doing their own thing and know what it's like to create their own brand. So without further ado, my man Mike.
Thanks.
You guys might know him as the Gotham Burger guy. So now just recently you opened up your first brick and mortar here in the city.
Technically, we opened up 2 restaurants in the span of a month.
What were the 2?
We took over the kitchen at Three's Brewery in Greenpoint.
Oh, so you're doing that full time?
Yeah, we're there.
Wow.
We're going to be there through the year.
I thought that was just like you were still doing
Yeah,
pop-ups.
we had to skirt around what it was going to be because we didn't want the attention to be taken away from our grand opening.
Okay.
Because 131 is our flagship location. But as anybody who gets in the business, especially in New York, you hit speed bumps along the way and you hit delays. And we hit delays and we realized, we had agreed to taking over that kitchen at Three's Brewing in Greenpoint like 6 months before.
Okay.
So the plan, we're like, the restaurant will be open by then. We can run that kitchen. And as that was getting closer, 131 Essex Street was getting pushed back. And I'm like, all right, we need to put a spin on this, that this is not our grand opening.
Because you didn't want to confuse people as to where it is because you don't want people showing up there and not come.
But it isn't our, we don't have a long-term lease there. It is a quarterly agreement, but we'll be there through the year. And if it stays successful, something that we could explore doing something long-term.
Now, before we get into all the burger stuff, because I want to get into that and I want to get into the logistics of the business, how much of a pain in the ass it is to open up anything here in New York.
People are going to hate my answer, but we can go ahead.
But you didn't always do this.
No.
Well, take us back a little bit.
This literally happened all by accident.
Yeah. So give us
All
that
by
story.
accident.
Because I know the story, but I want everybody else to hear.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where like you follow things, and sometimes it's like, all right, where is this going to go? And that's what I let this take me in this direction.
But you were working in finance forever.
Working on finance, there was a Time Out magazine about the 12 best burgers in New York City.
Yeah.
I literally took.
What year is this?
This is 2013.
Okay.
Seems like a few years ago, but
Yeah.
over 10 years ago. And I literally took a picture of the cover of that magazine. I put it on Facebook. I wasn't even on Instagram at the time. And I said, who wants to do a burger tour? That's all it was going to be. It was going to be a burger tour with my buddies.
Yeah.
We'll try one of these burgers once a month and a way to get my friends together once a month.
Yeah.
And
which I love because one of the other things I talked about is how important it is to continue to hang out with your friends.
Absolutely. And the older you get, the harder it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about getting together all the time, and it's tough.
Yeah.
It is tough unless you have something on the calendar where you're like, you bump into your friend, and what do you say? Like, dude, let's get together next week. Call me.
Yeah.
Next week comes, and it's not because you don't want to hang out.
Yeah, I agree.
You're busy, and as we get older, you have kids, and people get married, and they move out of the city. So this really resonated with a lot of people because we knew the second Tuesday of every month we were going to meet for a burger, rate it, have some fun, and I decided to start an Instagram page just to put our shenanigans on for us to follow.
Yeah.
In 2013,
that was the birth of Instagram. It wasn't even a thing.
and one of the things I'm actually really proud of the way that I built this brand was that there was no term influencer back then.
Yeah.
You just did it and hoped that people liked what you did, and all of a sudden followers started coming in, and that led to opportunities to collaborate with different brands and organizations. And in 2017, Social Teas Animal Rescue had asked to do a fundraiser. And it was their idea for me to cook a burger and have the proceeds go to their organization.
Wow.
And I'm like, absolutely, I'm game. This is fun.
And now,
So
what's your culinary experience before?
I'm a mama's boy. I watched my mother cook in the kitchen. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no skill back. I was just interested. It was something that I folled.
But being a finance guy, you've probably been to every steakhouse in the city.
We were at a lot of places. I mean, I tried a lot of burgers up until that point, too. So, and back then, no one was doing a smash burger, especially that Oklahoma style. So started doing it. That led to another event, and then it started picking up some momentum to the point where people are like, I can't believe you're not serving this burger regularly. Like, when am I getting this burger next time? And I'm like, I don't know, the next fundraiser. I'll See you in a few months. I don't know when we're doing it. That led to there were some moments when I was doing some of these things at events with other cooks. There was one in particular with a lot of talented chefs and pit masters, and we had the longest line of people waiting for the burger, and people coming up and being like, "Best thing here, best thing here," and I'm like, "These guys are fucking gods next to me.
I know.
Like, go eat their food."
Well, you were at the Food and Wine Festival multiple times. I was there one time. You guys had a burger, and your line was longer than these well-to-do.
And I'm just this little pop-up. I didn't even have my own restaurant at that point.
And I didn't even know you that well at that point. And I'm like, does this guy have any experience making burgers? And it's just been impressive to watch it grow. Because I met you what did we meet, 17, 18?
Yeah, whenever we judged that.
We judged that meatball contest.
November.
Yeah. So I'm watching this happen, and I'm watching your Instagram grow, and I think you did a really good job. I think, I'll give you the accolades that I know you won't give yourself. You were just doing it really well. Like your the way you kind of cut video and the way you put it out there. As an older guy, I'm watching this.
And I was an older guy for Instagram when I got in the game. I was in my 40s. Well, it was 20s and 30-year-olds.
But I think there's a lot of guys my age and your age who are like, oh, shit, I want to go hang out with these guys and eat burgers. Like,
I would get random messages from people all over the country, like, how do I join?
Yeah.
I want to come join you guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not that kind
And girls, too. Like, I know Charlie came out with you one time.
Yeah, we had a lot of girls. We were all married, so we kept it, just the guys. And then there was always the backlash, like, oh, you're this man club. And I'm like, no, we're friends.
Yeah.
But, we had a lot of fun, and I think that came through on the Instagram page when I would post. I was always very honest about experiences and restaurants that I ate at.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, a fresh take that people weren't getting on social media.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes a little bit easier so I do these gym reviews sometimes, and I feel bad because I know how hard it is to run a business, and I'm never one of these assholes. I can't stand the people who leave shitty reviews on, like, Yelp and stuff, like, oh, the guy at the front desk, just the dumbest shit. But for you guys, do you find it hard to say, like, hey, I've had this burger before, or what's the rating system like? Like, were you harsh on people, or like, because that's what people I think came to you for.
We were harsh, but I would always try and be very fair. Sometimes you tell people, like, listen, I'm not going to post about this.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And you give them some advice and be like, fix this.
No shit.
Sometimes I would say, listen, I might not go back for the burger, but I would go back and have a drink at that place any time of day, or I would get another menu item. The wings were fantastic, but I thought the burger was just okay.
Yeah. And you would review multiple things. I know you were doing, like, steaks and stuff too, right?
We were meeting once a month, so when you start getting into it, you're like, all right, I need content.
Yeah.
So I just started posting anything that I liked in New York City.
Yeah. What were your three top, like, before you started doing this and you started
back in the day? Was Suprema Provisions was the one that rated highest. I think that was just a big shock for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was a very different burger. Minetta Tavern back in the day was a great burger. Loved that one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Some of them are gone. The Bash Burger was good. The burger at Bowery Meat Company was great. There were a lot of burgers. But, back then it was funny. Like, no one was doing a smash burger. And now...
now, I think some of the most popular ones are... Like, I love Gramercy Tavern. I think Minetta Tavern's up there. But they're all a regular burger. They're not a smash burger. So there is a different flavor.
Well, 4 years ago, when the pandemic hit, that's where everything changed for us.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are no new burgers to rate anymore. Buddies didn't want to come into town. All of that led to this moment. June of 2020, Hotel Chantel reached out to me and said, listen, I know you do this burger. Will you come do a pop-up at our place? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? I love doing this shit.
So what's that like? Like, the logistics? Were they like, oh, we'll provide you the grill, or you had to go out and buy all this shit?
I had to get everything. But I had I had a grill that floated around the city. It was at Pig Beach. It was at Queen's Brewery, and they would let me leave it there. So I'm like, all right, let me go. I rented a truck, moved it over there, and we did our first pop-up, pandemic, and there was a line down the street. And I was
No
like, where are
shit.
these people coming from? This
What do
is
you think
insane.
that was? Because
I think it was, I think, I guess what, the city shut down in March of
Yeah.
2020. This pop-up was in June. I
That
think
makes-
they had been locked down for so many months
Yeah.
that finally it was something like, all right, we can do this. We can go outside and let's find some sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I get a lot where people like, we came to just as an escape.
Yeah.
Like we needed to get out and you were this refuge. And then some bars in that neighborhood caught wind of what we were doing, two in particular, Marshall Stack and Ray's.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me also, will you come do pop-ups here too? And I had never been to either of these bars. And I literally looked at a map and I'm like, you guys are like 3 blocks away from each other. And I would wheel a grill back and forth
No shit.
down Rivington Street, which the irony is our entrance is on Rivington Street for the restaurant. And I was able to leave the equipment in the bar because there was no indoor dining.
Yeah.
So they're like, leave the grill here.
That's so-
and I would do a Tuesday, I'd do a Thursday here and go back and forth. Then I'm like, all right, I need another grill. I'm like, we got 2 grills. I left one at each place.
And they're one of those flat top grills.
Yeah, Blackstones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great to work with. They're mobile, lightweight. But I didn't have a truck. I didn't have any of this equipment that I used to use Uber XLs to get around.
No shit.
And they would pull up and see me with this equipment, and half of them would be like, nope, you're not getting in my car, and drive off, and I'd have to wait for the next one.
Now, everybody thinks the city's like a pain in the ass to do stuff with. But we were talking, and you were telling me about how like the cops would like come by, grab some burgers, and wouldn't even give you a problem, right?
They enjoyed us.
Yeah.
You know, they supported us. You know, it's a tough game out there. You know, it's not easy. Finding people that are willing to work and that are dedicated, and find people that love the brand as much as you do is a really hard thing.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work to put up these pop-ups every week. I used to get calls from other chefs, big burger guys that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And he was like, how the hell are you doing these pop-ups every week? He's like, that's like doing a burger bash every week.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of work, but I'm like, I'm having so much fucking fun. And I loved it. And it went from doing 1 pop-up a week, and I was going into the office 3-4 days a week during the pandemic, work from home. And every day I started going into the office, I was like, I wish I was cooking somewhere. I'd much rather be outside.
No shit.
And then it turned into 2 pop-ups a week, and then as many as 3 pop-ups a week. And for somebody that doesn't have a kitchen, logistics become very tough.
And now you don't even, but you don't even know what the hell, like, I mean, what's your experience with this where you're like, all right, here's my hard cost.
You learn. You learn as you go.
Yeah.
Luckily, they've always been profitable. We've always sold out.
That's what I was
So
going
I
to say.
never had those stumbling things where I'm like, all right, how do I maintain my costs? You know, I'm losing money here. How do I fix this, change that? You know, from the get-go, because we had a little bit of a following going into it. But that's what, you know, to manage your expectations. I mean, I did, from where I started, 3 times the amount of beef by the end of it. You know, we went from 40 pounds to 50 pounds to 60 pounds. There was one weekend we did 170 pounds of beef in one day. And that's almost 1,000 burgers.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I've been there multiple times, and I've been there when you've sold out. I've been online when it just feels like it's never ending. What do you attribute? Because the burger is phenomenal, and if you haven't had it yet, you have to go try it. And people ask me all the time because I've posted about it multiple times. It is a phenomenal burger.
Thank you.
And it's the way I love eating a burger.
It's a very nostalgic burger, and it's a very clean burger.
Yeah.
We're using really good ingredients. A lot of people always say, like, I don't feel full on your burger. It
So
doesn't
take us through how
feel
you
greasy.
kind of, like, what made you do the smash burger? What made you do it with, because the bun is, obviously, when you rate a burger, right, and you could talk to this better than I could, when you rate a burger, I'm talking bun, cheese,
Toppings,
meat,
everything. Everything has to go together. You could have the greatest burger, beef burger,
Yeah.
and put a crappy bun on it, and it
ruins it, yeah.
The bun is as important as the beef. I created a signature pickle that I think works really well with our burger. We added pickled jalapenos along the way because I thought that was just a great bite.
Yeah.
And I just love that hint of sauce and condiments that you get from the mustard, ketchup, and special sauce that we created. So yeah, it's a very nostalgic burger. It'll kind of remind you of some of the burgers we'd had growing up, but
Cleaner,
much
better,
better ingredients.
Yeah.
Better technique cooking it. And, you know, I adjusted things along the way. I'm like, all right, this works better. Let's try this. Let's add this. But I keep it very simple. You know, I think people try to overcomplicate it. And in this fascination of like food porn and Instagram, everybody wants, bigger, better, higher, add more. Let's go outrageous so it goes viral. I'm not interested in that.
So I got a buddy of mine who's a huge fan of yours. He's got a couple restaurants in the city. He does pretty well with burger shops all over there. It's called the Committed Pig.
Oh, great place. Great place.
Yeah, and he's got multiple different burgers. Like he's known, like he uses the Pat LaFrida beef, right? So it's good beef, and he's got multiple burgers on the menu. One of them happens to be a burger I came up with when it was a turkey burger. But you stick to the one burger.
Sticking to the one burger.
Yeah.
I think we will do some fun collaborations and might do like a burger of the month here and there, just for fun.
Yeah.
But I want to keep the menu simple, tight.
Oh, the boss is here.
There's no reason to overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
I know what people are coming there for, but they're coming back for another reason. They came for the burger, but they kind of stay for us. And there is a certain community that we've built.
And that's what I want to ask you about, because from somebody who owns their own business, I know how hard it is to build a team. And one of the things that I tell people when they're looking to start a business, I'm like, you have to have a great team around you. How'd you start to build your team? Because everybody, the last time I went there, I was just telling you, the staff was awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, your team was great.
I've been fortunate.
What do you think? What do you attribute that to?
I wish I could put my finger on it. It's literally, I talk about it, and it's hard. It's hard for me to talk about myself. And like people will say, like, well, it comes from the top.
Yeah,
because the way you treat
100%.
people and they see it. I think I treat everybody with respect. I'm very fair with everybody, and I like to have fun. Where I know there's a job to do, we get the job done. We also like to have fun doing it. So we've attracted people that want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Not that I'm asking them like, hey, you want to, join, but people that were like, I want to be a part of this. And we generally enjoy working together. We're spending a lot of time together. Right now I'm working 16-hour days.
Yeah.
So you better enjoy what you're doing, who you're working with. But it was a funny moment during the pandemic when the world was starting to open up again. I remember there was a girl, Nicole, that I was working with, Nikki, and I looked at her and I said, I don't know how many more of these we have left. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, indoor dining's opening up. I'm like, why are people going to wait? Because the lines sometimes are 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me that people didn't mind. I mean, the majority of people did not mind waiting in line. And from that, dogs have been rescued from animal shelters. 3 different people have gotten engaged that met at our pop-ups. I get all these messages. So we created something fun. I knew people were going to wait. So, I introduced them to some liquor brands that I was working with. We had music playing. I'm like, let's just make this a party. So it was a place to come and hang out, not just get a burger, leave, and, be on your way. And I said, with indoor dining opening up, who's going to want to come outside? It's going to be free. It was cold too. It was during those months where, like, during the winter.
It was like 2001, 2002? 2021, 2022?
Yeah, it was probably 2020. You remember, like, indoor dining opened up and they shut it back down.
Yeah.
And she's like, Michael, you're crazy. I'm like, what are you? She's like, people aren't just coming here for the burger. They're coming here to be part of something and be part of this community. Yeah. And she was right. I mean, we did pop-ups in 25-degree weathers and sold out, and we did them in 95-degree weathers.
I texted you one time. It was like January. I'm like, you guys are doing a pop-up? And you're like, yeah. I was like, shit, okay.
It's insane.
There's a level of dedication.
And people came out.
Yeah.
And that still blows my mind today. Yeah. I still try and wrap my head around the fact that one of our fastest sellouts was a day it was 25 degrees outside.
Really?
And people got there, like right when we started, like the line was already down the street and some people didn't get burgers.
Damn.
It's insane.
So, and I think this is hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. You had a great job in finance. Mm-hmm. You start this new business that it's not like you went to school for it. It's not like you've been doing it for all these years. You took your side hustle and made it a real thing.
Yeah.
Take us through that process and like what you and your wife are thinking, like, oh, I'm gonna leave my steady job.
Well, my wife at the time, you spend a lot of time on social media, especially years ago when you were building your brand and building followers and stuff. And she'd be like, what the hell are you doing with this thing? Like, what? And I'm like, I literally would tell her, I'm like, I don't know, but there's something here.
Yeah.
And I want to see, where this goes. And at that time, the thought was never open up a restaurant. There was more interest on like TV shows and travel stuff and
Because you got asked to do a lot of that shit.
Yeah. When you talk about TV shows, there's a lot of factors that go into it. There's a show that you want to make. There's a show that the producers think they can sell, and then there's the one that the TV station or whatever it is thinks that their viewers are going to watch. So after discussions there, it didn't really go anywhere. But I knew I was still having fun with it. And then when the pandemic hit, there was a moment, we did a pop-up in Connecticut. And I met this incredible woman, Elisa, who I think, had you met Elisa?
I don't know. Maybe.
She saddled up at the bar, and I was kind of in this U-shaped bar, cooking in the middle. Felt like Benihana. And she's like, all right, people will not stop shutting out about it. She's like, I have not eaten beef in 13 years, but people will not shut up about this burger. She's like, give me one. I'm going to try it. Gave her the burger. She's like, holy shit, this is amazing. Then she sent me a message like, I don't know if you know what I do, but she's like, I'm in PR, and I would love to work with you. And I'm like, I don't know if I need a PR person, but she's like, explain to me a little bit. And I'm like, all right, let's see what we can do. Yeah. She came out, and I mean, just immediately had such an impact. She lost her battle to breast cancer a few years ago at 29.
Holy shit, 29.
Yeah, and I'll start crying every time I talk about her. But she is literally the reason why that restaurant exists. She lit that fire in me and gave me that confidence to say, like, you can do this. And this is bigger than a pop-up. This is bigger than a social media page.
Yeah. And that was kind of the catalyst to pull the trigger on the business.
That was, yeah. And then, then I started interviewing with people to bring in people who have some restaurant experience, find the right partners, because it's a team. You can't do this yourself. No. I was fortunate enough to have a girl named Tanya who works with me.
It's amazing.
Ari, who's our GM, he put together an incredible team. Jay, who helped develop the restaurant and had dealt with all the fun stuff of building out the restaurant. So we've been really, really fortunate.
So when you, for everybody out there who's interested in the business side of things, you pull the trigger, you sign a lease, you start looking at places. Take us through that process. And then that's where I brought in somebody, because I'm like, I know nothing about this stuff.
So I had somebody who has that experience. And even with that, you find asshole landlords. You're still going to have problems.
Oh,
most landlords are really tough.
Especially here in New York.
Yeah, I mean, we hit tremendous bumps in the road and almost had to walk away and tell our investors we're going to start from scratch somewhere else.
From this space?
Yep.
No shit. And it was while the ball's rolling, you were building it out.
Yeah. And, we talked to our investors, and they were like, we're willing to take the hit and move on. Like, we believe in the brand, but if you think there's going to be a problem, I'm like, okay.
So
we hashed out our differences and moved forward.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we opened up the doors almost a month ago, January 10th. And, I mean, there's just been nonstop traffic.
Well, I mean, for everybody out there who pays attention to your Instagram, like myself, I mean, you're having major celebrities coming through the door. Like, who has walked through the door where you're like, how the hell?
Phil Rosenthal coming in was amazing. I mean, to have him come in, I mean, I love his show, watching it all the time. Susan Sarandon came in one day. I get a message like, Susan Sarandon's in our
And you're open in 1
group.
month now.
Yeah. Andrew Schultz came in. Yeah. What amazes me, we had a gentleman come in, and he goes, I had to come in here because my friend Phil Rosenthal told me this burger's amazing. So I'm like, if he's talking about it outside of the restaurant,
you're doing something right.
Doing something right.
Yeah. It's incredible. So there's other smash burgers around the city.
There's a lot of, it's funny, 4 or 5 years ago,
there wasn't really many.
There were 2 people doing smash burgers, myself and George Motes.
Yeah.
That was it. And the irony was we were the last 2 to open up restaurants. Everybody else jumped on that bandwagon over the last few years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw guys who own successful smash, they used to come to my pop-ups. And you look at the signature toasted bun that we were doing, they're doing that. And that's great. There's room for everybody out there.
But you can't patent what you've done. So
no.
I mean, there's definitely going to be people who are...
Anybody can copy anybody. You can go copy McDonald's if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But they're McDonald's, and I always say they're not us. You could make the same burger, but I think when you walk into our restaurant, you know you're in a different place.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a sense of community. The design for the space. I mean, how much involvement did you have in that? Like, I love the old pictures on the wall. And stuff.
That was something I was really passionate about. I'm like, I want a place that I want to hang out at.
Yeah.
You know, not something that I thought would like sell to other people, but a place that I genuinely like. And, you know, I look back at when I would go on vacation out in the desert, the high desert, and there were a couple of places I'm like, yeah, this is the type of place that I want.
Yeah.
You know, not quite a saloon, but it's got a little Western feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the vibe of the place. And I mean, I can't keep, I could keep talking about it all day long about how welcoming it is when you.
And even when I saw the designs and it came to life, before we had people in there, I was still like, all right, how is this going to work? You know, you sit there and you question everything. You're like, and we built it to recreate that energy of a pop-up. We have the open kitchen, and it literally feels like I'm doing 12-hour pop-ups now because we're yelling out orders. You know, we're like, oh, we'll use the toast system. They'll get a text message, and they'll come pick up their order, their tray.
Yeah.
No one's looking at their phone. So I'm there now just yelling out names, just like we would do at a pop-up, bringing over their trays if I see them, if they stand up. But it's working, and it's becoming part of that interaction with our customers.
And it's that
and
old
that's
school
always
feel.
been the whole thing about Gotham Burger Social Club was that interaction with people. People were always amazed when they would send me messages on Instagram and like, I can't believe you responded. I'm like, why wouldn't I respond?
Yeah. No, and it's got that old school feel. I love it. It feels like a diner kind of bar from like the 70s, 80s. Like, I love it. So you were in corporate America for a very long time, what, 20?
Yeah, and then there was I guess, well, now 24, 22, probably in 22 was the year where I'm like, all right, we started talking about having a restaurant, and I actually thought I could keep my job, open up the restaurant, and be kind of a behind-the-scenes guy. The more it started coming to fruition, the more I didn't want to be a behind-the-scenes guy. The more I also realized I'm like, I need to be there if this is going to work. You know, if we're really going to do it, you got to go all in, be passionate about it. I can't be half-assed about it. As we discussed, you know, there are people that are going to come there to see me, and they want to have that experience. And I just knew I was also done with that chapter of my life. After 30 years, I was not getting anywhere near
satisfaction.
the satisfaction I was getting from cooking for people.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close.
I mean,
I never even knew that existed.
I always tell people, you know, it's a sense of, you know, pressure and purpose. You felt this desire and this, you know, kind of movement towards this more meaningful lifestyle, right? Because you're there. We were talking about Capon, right?
Yep.
He changes the environment when he's in the restaurant.
Oh, 100%.
Like when I go to your place, I even text you. I'm like, oh, are you going to be there? Because it changes the environment.
Yep.
Like, talk about that. Talk about how.
And that is the scary part, because you know, you want people to go there for the food and the experience, and not be the sole experience while people are coming.
Yeah.
You can't always be there. I am there 90% of the time, but as we grow this brand, that will change. But I think if you train your employees to be welcoming and warm and remember people, I'm like, even if you can't remember their name, just greet them like, you know, they've been back. You can remember your regulars. Welcome back. It's important. Like, we've had, I mean, for the first 2 weeks, I had a guy come in every day for 2 weeks straight.
Really?
And then I didn't see him. I was like, all right, I guess he's taking a breather, you know, that's fine. And he came back the next week. He's like, oh man, I was in the hospital. And I was like, he's like, I'm back. And I see him now every day. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, you're going to have regulars for sure.
We have a lot of regulars.
Yeah.
In the first month, regulars from the pop-ups, and we're opening up a whole new market. I had a gentleman come in one night. We were closing at 10 o'clock. He showed up at 9:50, 10 minutes to close, with a suitcase. It's like I came right from the airport. Because I was so afraid I was going to miss and get here. And I'm like, that would have really sucked if you showed up like a little bit late. Yeah. Like it's almost instantly becoming a destination spot. We had people coming in from Madrid, Italy, literally telling me like, we came in here just for this burger.
And Is it social? Are they saying they found it on social media? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have people coming. Like, I'm not on TikTok. Instagram's enough for me right now. I will develop the other social media channels as we grow. But yeah, they're like, you're blowing up on TikTok. I'm like, yeah, that's good. I'm like, I'm not on it.
Where do you see this going? Because this was never a plan for you. You just kind of found this passion.
No. Like I said, up until a couple of years ago, I'd never thought that I was going to be a restaurateur or a cook or anything like that.
I feel like you're one of the most sought after guys right now in the city, right? When it comes to burgers, there's other burger shops where people are like, oh yeah, it's famous for its burgers. And there are a lot of classic restaurants like Gramercy Tavern and places like that are known for their burger. But like, you are basically the burger king, if you will, of the city right now.
It's nice that people are loving what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very humbling. It's great. It's a lot of work, but again, we're having a lot of fun doing it. And it is something we want to scale out and introduce to other markets and bring it to other neighborhoods. So I'm excited to grow the brand and see where it goes.
3 places you would take it right away if you could. Because you're going to have to be there. You're going to have to go. So it's like 3 places you'd like to go.
I would love to have a location in the West Village.
Okay.
I would love to have
Great
a location in Nashville. And let's see, the third one, I think Stamford, Connecticut. I think we have, there's something there in Connecticut. There's a big following there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's going to crush anywhere. I would, I'd personally love to see one closer uptown because I come down there.
Yeah.
And it's a pain in the ass to go downtown, but I'm like, screw it.
We'll move uptown too. But, I want to do things tactfully. I don't want to just open up and lose what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern is consistency. I'd rather have one location that's consistent than 5 locations that are inconsistent.
Yeah, and people ask me all the time. They're like, oh, well, with the event, you should move it to another city, and with the gym, you should add more of them. I'm like, yeah, but right now, it just doesn't feel like the right time. Mm-hmm. And you never want to water down the product.
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to be like, now it's too accessible. And there's no way to really determine that, right?
No, there isn't. That's sometimes you just got to go with your gut and hope you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no scientific equation for it where it's like, oh, now you do this, now you do that, now you do this. There's a little bit of shoot from the hip and hope for the best.
Yeah, it's a gradual process. Well, we wanted to play a little game with you,
all right,
on the show. We got a couple burgers from a couple different spots. But we're gonna blindfold you and we're gonna see if you. Oh yeah, he's got the bandana. Yeah. So we're going to have you taste test and see if you could try the burgers because I know you're a man of research. I know you've done your research and you've probably tried every
burgers.
Yeah. So you've tried a couple burgers in the city. Yeah, we'll put both out because when I think of Mike, I think whiskey and burgers and like we've had some great times in the past.
I do enjoy a good whiskey.
This is a lovely assistant, Christy.
Oh, very nice.
Okay. So we'll have some. So which one do you want to crack open? I'm sure you've had both before, right? I haven't had the Great Jones Rye. Oh, okay. See the Great Jones Rye. And people are always like, "Oh, you don't drink anymore." I'm like, "No, on occasion I drink for good enough occasions." Yeah.
Everything.
Actually, the night I came there was like the first time I had a drink in like a month. Yeah. You were like, "Yeah, you want some whiskey?"
I'll tell you what, though, dry January was a real thing this year.
Nobody was drinking.
That was a real thing, yeah.
I think it's becoming. What do you like? The comparison between cigarettes and alcohol. Like people are like, alcohol is becoming more like cigarettes than ever before. Like people are.
I see people embracing a sober lifestyle.
Yeah.
For other reasons. It used to be you got sober because you had an addiction or you had a problem. You couldn't handle alcohol. Now you see people just making a lifestyle decision, just saying, I don't want to feel hungover. I don't want the empty calories. I don't want the effects that alcohol does to my body. So there's a whole new scope to being sober today more than ever. And you know that in the fitness world.
No, I'm seeing it a lot more. Like I have clients.
You'll just see people, not because I drink too much, but when I do drink, it affects my performance in the gym the next day or whatever it might be.
Yeah, listen, I'm not totally canceling out alcohol for the rest of my life. I enjoy it at like times like this or, when we're out. I like to have it. I appreciate the art form that goes into creating a whiskey or creating a tequila. So I appreciate that. Do I need to get wasted anymore? No. In my 20s, it's like when you're buying bottles and half it's spilling on the fucking floor. But yeah, so cheers to this, and then we're gonna. How many we got here, Chris? 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get the other one that I had?
Burgers this early.
All right, you need me to blindfold myself?
No, I actually don't. I mean,
No.
unless you
We
can
put it-
tell
All
my
right.
site. I don't know.
I probably
how good
can.
you
All right, let's see.
Yeah. Let's see if
I
you
know
can
which
tell.
ones they are.
Okay. So we got 2 smash burgers here. From 2 different places here in the city. Very popular burgers. I'm sure most of the people out there watching could.
I think I already know who's who.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to say who I think is who?
Yeah, say it and then.
I think that's 7th Street, and I think that's George Motz's new place, Hamburger America.
Ooh.
Taste them now and then.
All right, let's
we'll
see.
choose what-
And then I have to say who's better.
Yeah.
Tasty
What do-
beef, onions, cheese, toasted bun.
Very similar, but no.
I'm gonna say that's 7th Street.
Okay.
This one,
That's a healthy burger. That's a lot of meat on that burger.
not more beef. I'm gonna say it's Hamburger America.
What were they?
That one's correct. That one's Shake Shack.
Oh, that's Shake Shack.
Wow.
Wow. You know what it is? That threw me off. No lettuce and tomato. They usually have
bad.
it on Shake Shack.
So
It's tasty. A lot more beef on that one.
coming in at a strong second and third, what would you say if people are out there and they're like, all right, I had the Gotham Burger. What else should they try in the city?
What else should they try?
This is actually great.
It is very good.
You know, this is actually the only you know the story with the Great Jones guys. This is like the only distillery in New York City.
Pastis makes a really good burger.
Yes, I love the
I
pasty.
do like the Pastis burger a lot. The Rolls burger.
Raoul's is a great burger.
And everybody's like, oh, you can only get 12 them at the bar. I said, go on the weekends. They
Yeah.
serve more. It's not unlimited, but
Yeah.
you'll easily get one on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon.
Where'd I go the other night? Where was I?
We had one White Street.
Oh,
Burger is phenomenal.
dude,
Which
have
one?
you had one White Street?
No, I have not.
It's in Tribeca. Phenomenal.
Really?
It's so good. And the thing with that restaurant is that everything's like farm to table. So everything is super fresh, clean. I love that place. It's like one of my new favorite places in the city.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Definitely check out One White Street.
I'm trying to think. God, I literally haven't had another burger other than my own in a long time.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years ago, White Horse Tavern. They had a good burger.
Somebody was telling
I
me.
enjoyed that one there.
You know what was one of my favorites for the longest time? And it was kind of an offshoot of like, it wasn't a traditional classic burger. Or it wasn't a smash burger. But at Maialino.
Oh, they had that late night burger.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my
What was
buddy
on-
Nick, he was the one who came up with that, and it was great. It was like a mustard mayonnaise sauce on top. I mean, hopefully
They had
one.
like a slice of pancetta, something
Yes.
like crispy pancetta on
yeah.
there.
And it was a little different, but it was a great burger.
But I think you had to get it like after 10 o'clock.
Yes, you couldn't get it, and you could only get it at the bar. You
the
couldn't
bar,
get it in
yeah.
the restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I like, accessible burgers you can just go into, and obviously you don't have to jump around hoops. Who else?
We were trying to get. What were the other ones we were trying to get? But nothing.
Shake Shack one was surprising.
Yeah. And you know what the crazy thing is? I want to talk to you about New York and like, what you think the future of the city is, because everybody's talking about, how crazy it is to live here. And I still have friends who are afraid to come to New York. One of my clients this morning was just telling me how her mom got attacked coming out of the subway in Brooklyn, which you hate hearing that. It's so crazy. But then I go to Shake Shack and I picked up that burger, and the kid behind the counter was like, yo, man, this one's on me. And we started bullshitting. And I was like, what? I don't know. I guess because I haven't lived anywhere else in the last 15 years other than New York. And I've traveled a little bit, but there's just such a vibe about a New Yorker, right? And I love this city, right? And you've been here a long time.
During the pandemic, it got a little hairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were moments.
Where you were thinking about moving out.
Not necessarily moving out, but I never looked over my shoulder as much. Mm-hmm. We used to feel a lot safer.
Yeah.
There were some instances on subways where guys were mouthing off to me.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when we were doing some of the pop-ups, I was like, all right,
I bet that got kind of
especially
weird,
on
right?
the Lower East Side,
Yeah. So homeless people, and
a lot of stuff.
or whatever the fuck they want to call homeless people now.
But in full disclosure, I haven't been on the subway in like a year.
Me too. I never.
I drive that utility van around everywhere. It's got commercial plates. So.
So you drove over here today too?
Yeah.
No shit. So listen. If I'm not on a bike or on foot, I rarely, if ever, I don't take Ubers. I don't take the subway.
I mean, I think they do need to clean up some of the problems the city has, but it's still one of the greatest cities in the world.
Hands down. You know, I fight with it all the time in my head because I'm a Jersey guy. And
But I think the crime in general, not just in New York, everywhere, there's a brazenness that never existed before. Like people used to be afraid of a camera and being
Or
recorded.
cops.
They were afraid of getting caught. Now they're like right in front. Like, what are you going to do?
Nobody-
Not going to do anything. No.
Well, I think that's, and we're raising this next generation to be like, all right, there's no consequence for you breaking the law. You know, I don't know if you saw
they
that
see
video.
everything, and they get scot free. And these guys that
Did you see
attack
the
these
video?
officers?
Yeah. Do you see the video of those two guys, the two migrants? Or whatever? You're like, how? Who's writing these fucking policies? Who's signing
who
off
called
on
the
this
shot
shit?
on this?
Yeah.
Let them free.
Yeah, it makes no fucking sense. I remember when there was a sense of fear. If you were like a career criminal, this is the best time to be one.
Yeah.
Because you get away with
I
everything.
grew up. My dad's like, you guys, you say yes, officer, no officer,
Yeah.
sorry, officer, respect, and you get arrested, you're getting arrested.
Yeah.
Don't fight back.
Well, I mean, there were multiple times. I don't want to say multiple times. It's not like I'm some criminal myself, but when you're younger and you're doing dumb shit, drinking outside, pissing, like you were in fear. You hid your drinks and stuff. Now it's like people are blowing smoke in cops' faces. I don't know. I think Law and Order. I know for a fact that Law and Order was created to keep everybody safe. And if we lose Law and Order,
Then what do you have?
yeah, what do we do?
Yeah.
So
And then if you take matters in your own hands, you're like, now I have something to lose, though.
yeah, but now you have a bigger problem than the person who's actually committing the crime,
100%.
which is crazy. So
And that's now I saw a story where an older woman was being attacked, and her daughter's like, no one jumped in and helped, and I'm like, I have to worry if I jump in that now I'm the one that when you're in a desperate position and you put somebody in a chokehold or something to get them to stop, then what happens?
Yeah.
And everybody's filming it, and then they're judging you, and they're only going to see one side of that story. I mean, we're bigger guys.
Yeah.
We're the guys that if something happens on a subway train,
Somebody's expecting you.
someone's expecting us to jump in. But then when I see the consequence of people who have jumped in to help, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be that
It's
guy.
not worth it. Yeah. No, I think the same thing. Nowadays, I don't even want to get involved. It's like I was raised to be like, hey, if somebody's in trouble, you help them out. Nowadays, I'm like, I don't want to get involved. It's not worth me losing everything over bullshit, know? But I don't know. Do you ever see it turn around? I mean, what do you think?
I think it will get better. I think they've got to get a handle on obviously the migrant crisis that's going on. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. But I do think the city is safer than it was a few years ago.
Yeah, definitely during
where things
2020.
were really rampant. I mean, there was a dark place.
Yeah.
There was a dark time.
Yeah. And I know you were here.
I
the whole
remember
time.
going into Soho and it looked like a war zone. Everything was boarded up.
Yeah.
And like, how the hell did this happen?
I remember I was living on 26 and Broadway, and I'm walking across Broadway. It's the middle of the day, and I see these two kids just take a fucking brick and throw it through the window of this. It was like a towel shop. They sell like blankets and shit there. And I'm like, they didn't even rob anything. They just took a brick and threw it and just kept walking like nothing happened. And I'm like, why is this okay? Even the other day, I flew in from Texas and I took the train. Very rarely do I take the air train. I took the air train into Grand Central. And I come out of Grand Central and there's a guy in the middle of 42nd Street pissing. Dick out, everything. Cars are stopped. Cops are there. Nobody's doing anything.
Well, we're normalizing a lot of this behavior. We're letting it
Yeah.
happen, and it's
Which is
becoming,
crazy.
A common occurrence.
I think everybody could agree, anybody with any common sense could agree that everybody just wants to feel safe, and everybody wants to be, just go on about their day. They don't want to be bothered.
But they're not addressing the real problem. It's a mental crisis.
Yeah.
How do you address it?
I think a lot of it has to do with social media, for some people, and then the other problem I think is like the legalizing of drugs, right? Like, there's so much marijuana. I don't give a shit. I think they should have legalized marijuana way earlier.
Yeah.
70s, 80s.
It's a lot less dangerous than alcohol. If
No,
you think about it.
absolutely. I think I've never seen somebody go crazy high out of their minds.
But I also, how many times you sit in traffic and you see somebody smoking a joint behind the wheel, and you're like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Well, yeah, but here it's you see it everywhere. I mean, it's a very common thing. But I rather people high than drunk, because obviously, I mean, you're in bars and restaurants and stuff. It's like you see it all the time. People are getting into arguments and shit. But with the fentanyl and all the other shit, I mean, these people are going nuts. I just watched a video the other night of this woman. She was like trying to climb this fence, cracked out of her brain, and the guy in the,
With so much shit, I don't understand how people do it. I'm like, aren't you worried about what's in that shit?
yeah. It's mind-boggling to me how many people try shit where you're like, you don't even know where it came from. No, it's sick.
I'm good with a little whiskey here and there. That's
Whiskey
a
and
drug of
burgers.
choice.
Yeah, Mike, I really appreciate you coming by. I hope we
Thank you.
we had a
Thank you.
great time. What? What's the question you want me to ask?
We had a question. Shoot a question at me.
Oh, so we were coming up with the idea that what we were going to call the show, and when I said strong as fuck today, it was just something me, Christy, and my clients came up with, or they came up with, and I was just running with, and they were like, you have to ask everybody at the end of every episode, which I hate because everybody does that shit. Everybody's always like, what's your one question? So the one question was, how do you define strength in your life?
Straight. I'm gonna say confidence.
Yeah.
Right, like being confident in your own skin. There's a lot of people that you look at and you're like, they look like they have their shit together, and it's not just their physical appearance.
Yeah.
It's just being confident in your own skin.
Yeah. The way you walk into a room, right?
Yeah.
Like the way you can own it. Yeah.
You could address people.
Do you think
honestly.
that? I would say you definitely have that, right? Like since the moment I met you, you have this swagger about you. You got this old school Italian.
I'm fooling you.
But you have that presence. Do you think that's something that you've built over time because of the things that you've succeeded in, or do you think that's more like nature and nurture?
People look at me, and if I told you stories about being bullied as a kid, you'd be like, no. Yeah, I was bullied as a kid.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah, like everybody thinks, like we were the guy, like, oh, you must have been the guy being bullied, and you were the cool kid. I moved at a very weird age in high school, in actually junior high.
Where'd you move from?
I moved from Long Island to Connecticut.
Okay.
In 1986. It was like a scene out of Footloose. I am moving there wearing parachute pants and a Michael Jackson fucking zipper jacket.
No
To a
shit.
place where everybody's wearing polo shirts and friggin' denim jeans and did not fit in. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And a funny thing, you just made me think about it. Have you watched, I mean, this was the height of it. I just watched that documentary on Netflix about the We Are the World song.
I haven't seen that yet.
Dude,
I do want to see it.
It's
Crazy
incredible. I don't cry at shit. I don't like watching movies and getting emotional about it. That made me emotional because there's a part at the end where Lionel Richie's talking about how special that moment was and how it'll never happen again.
Yeah.
You had some of the biggest artists in the world at that time and legends still to this day, all in the same room for the same cause, and everybody's fighting for the same thing. And and you had Michael Jackson, who was probably the biggest of all the stars there. He didn't even go to the American Music Awards that night. He was there trying to get the sound right, trying to make this thing so special. And I think about when I was a kid, I remember watching Michael Jackson, and listening to the album. My dad had the old Thriller record, and we'd listen to it. And I was like, what an amazing time to be alive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm glad we grew up without social media. And
me too.
That's a whole nother level of probably bullying because that stays.
Yeah.
Right? The bullying when we grew up, when you left the room, it was over.
Yeah.
If there's social media stuff, that to me is a real concern for people.
I say that all the time. I remember being in high school and there was the kid that you're like, well, he comes from a rich family. He gets all the girls. He's in great shape. He looks great. You're like, I want to hate this guy, but I love him because he's the coolest kid in school. But I didn't have to see him when I was home.
Yeah.
Now it's like with social media, especially
They got 24 hours. to
yeah.
their face.
And I feel like for women, it's probably even worse because now it's like there are certain girls who just get a crazy amount of attention on social media where it's like, how do you compete with that? You know? So
Well, it's real. Half the stuff you're looking at, it's not. I tell everybody, I'm like, don't believe anything you're seeing on there. It's all bullshit. I mean, your stuff is pretty real. You got fucking in great shape for the last year. I don't know what the fuck you've been doing. You're just going nuts, man.
it's
great.
listen, it's the Gotham Burger. I eat one a week.
One a week. You
Yeah.
limit yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's the social media game has really great things about it and really bad things about it, and it's up to you how you want to manage it.
Well, I think you've done a great job with it. For everybody out there who wants to come check out the Gotham Burger
Yeah, we're
Club,
located Lower East Side, Rivington and Essex, 131 Essex Street, right on the corner.
and I'm also excited to say that we're doing a retreat in a couple weeks out
Yes.
in Rockaway Beach and
Rockaway Hotel. That's a great place. Love that place.
So I'm very excited about that, and you
And I
guys are
just
going
want to
to.
tell people, don't be afraid if you see a line coming in. We have the line moving within about 30, 40 minutes. So, you know, it's not like the 2-hour waits that people used to.
Yeah, because and that's a real thing because sometimes if I see a line out the door, I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I'm not.
Not just at your place, anywhere, right? Like in New York,
Yeah.
people. I mean that that pop up bagel place too, right?
Yeah.
They're 10 o'clock most mornings. I'm riding past there because I have a client that I go see down, and there's a line down the block, and I'm like, holy shit, that must. I wouldn't wait.
Katz's. I mean, it becomes like this rite of passage in New York, right? It's
Yeah.
part of like the New York experience.
It's and hopefully we'll get you back on the show another day. But with the success of everything, it's so rare. Like you're opening up a business and having that line and having people obsessed with it. I mean, it's a blessing from God. It's timing and it's doing something really, really well. So it's for those out there who want to start a business, it's like learn from the pros, learn from people who did it because
took 10 years to get to this point.
yeah.
So it wasn't an overnight thing, but you know, we had. I was fortunate enough that I already had an audience in the Lower East Side from all the pop-ups for years. I mean, we're New York City's largest pop-up. I mean,
Yeah.
we did 2-3 a week for 4 years. It was insane.
And there were, I mean, I saw it all over social media. Like everybody was reporting on it. People are like, "Oh, you got to check this thing out. You got to check." And I'm like, "Oh,
And I can count on like one hand the amount of people who are disappointed by the wait or you know something happened. People are generally happy to be there.
I think the wait."
They made their day around it.
Yeah, and I think the wait became part of the experience. Right? You
Yeah.
buffered in that extra time to stand there. You knew you were going to meet some people online and stuff. So it's cool. Well, congratulations on all the
Thank
success,
you.
guys.
Appreciate
Check
having me.
out Gotham Burger Social Club downtown here if you are in the city, and even if you're not, check them out on Instagram. Mike, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you, Kenny. Pleasure. Hope to be back again soon.
Yeah, see you guys soon.
Cheers.